Hey, we should be alive, and this is going to be a special live because it's Christmas, and I wanna do this live stream basically just to have fun and paint with you guys. So, because this is a special live stream, and I don't feel like limiting this in any way, so I wanna keep this live stream on even after this stream is over. So usually my live streams are all in the membership. I never delete them. There are tons and tons of live streams there, but this one I just want to keep here. Usually on my membership I delete all of the ads from these live streams, but this I will keep the ads on. I will keep doing more live streams that are membership specific as well, but this I wanted to invite everybody to paint with us. And I just want to say this one thing before I start painting. I just released this art lecture called Art Class Mastering Glowing Effects on my membership, and it's a full lecture on how I do glowing effects, not just in practice, but also the theory behind composition on where and when to use them and how to implement these different techniques in different scenarios. So that whole talk was the last big project that I made for this channel, and it's now available for all members. This is the kind of content that doesn't expire at all, so it will be available for there whenever you feel like doing it. Also, when it comes to memberships, this live stream, I'm gonna start with these three that I made. I wanted to make it as like default shape as possible, and if you wanna decorate your own Christmas tree, and this applies to you, Uncle Chris, as well, who just joined Angry Mob. If you go to the community posts, you will find a link to the downloads, and you can actually download this super basic looking Christmas tree, and if you want, you can use it the way that I do and customize your own Christmas tree and maybe paint something around it. I will be using the deep canvas brush. It will also be available in those downloads, and let's just go and have fun with this. If you want to use the palette, you can screenshot it right here. If you're not a member, honestly, I don't own these colors. It's a good palette, and I'm looking forward to working with this. But for all members, I also uploaded this palette, so it's easier to just download the file and put it into Procreate, and you will have these swatches already there. Okay, without further ado, let's just start painting. The reason why I'm so happy that I'm able to do this is because the Christmas just like busyness of like trying to get everything, all my work stuff done before Christmas, I knew that like doing this live stream was always the optional thing, that if I couldn't be able to do this live stream, then life would go on, like nothing of importance would be lost. But to me, like this was the one thing that I was looking forward to the most, so I'm really happy that I'm able to be here and paint with you, because it's the one thing that I've been looking forward to. And I'm also not going to be recording any of this, so this is just a stream where I'm making this art. It's not gonna make sense for me to make a video about a Christmas tree painting later in January, so I thought maybe I can just let myself enjoy the painting and not think about the content creation stuff. I've already done so much of that during this year. I'm really happy with the stuff that I've been doing on this channel, but also I think I always try to achieve way too much right before any vacations, basically. And I think I'm kind of a menace to my boyfriend, because we will be leaving for whatever vacation or holiday travels, and until the last possible second I might be just like uploading a video or publishing something here. And I know that must be stressful for him to just endure me and what I'm like. Obviously, I'm not gonna leave this tree be black. I just wanted to create a base that would be so like default that anybody who uses it would end up with different kinds of results. I love these sort of like color blending effects when a brush allows for them. Here you can see that like the brush is picking up that bright saturated light. I always love playing with that. Sure, you could just like Gaussian blur this entire sky and it would be done, but I love this sort of very subtle, low contrast textures when you zoom in. It's the kind of stuff that when you have a painting printed and on your wall, it feels somehow like there's more to see when even the surfaces of all of the elements have this sort of play of colors and light. Vivi is barking at something, I don't know what. And hello, Christine, Paula, Esther, and Natalie. Are you planning on making your process available for Adobe Photoshop users? On my membership, I have on some years also released a Photoshop process that I have made. But any process that I make, they are either done as Photoshop process first and then Procreate, but never the other way around. Because you can't turn a Photoshop brush into, you can't turn a Procreate brush into a Photoshop brush. That's a conversion that works only one way. And even when you are bringing a Photoshop brush into Procreate, that's almost always the same amount of work as doing two brushes. But I will definitely keep doing Photoshop brushes as well. I have a lot that I haven't organized because there's honestly so much just like bloat in there. So whenever I have released Photoshop brushes, like they are ones where I'm kind of using the logic that I have learned from working on Procreate and working with brushes with just a little bit more common sense, I want to say. Alpha lock this and try some of these three colors that I had planned earlier, because you never want to leave black into your painting because you might end up accidentally having black in the painting. That's the main reason why you don't want to do it. I think my sky needs to be a little bit darker if I'm going to have some kind of star or bright element here. Let's just try doing a temporary stand-in thing. Okay. So if this would be like a bright yellow thing, what would I need to do to make that be more visible? Hey Sammy, has anybody done any Christmas related paintings or illustrations yet? Or are you the type of person that everybody asks, since you are an artist, you are by default the person who is expected to do custom printable Christmas cards every year, like it's the easiest thing in the world to do? That used to be me, but then I was just like, I can't be having like this work exhaustion every single Christmas, and I guess eventually people just stopped expecting me to do something crazy like that every single year. It was a bit much. I don't know if I'm gonna have this like right in the middle of the painting. That might be. What if it's like in communication with the sunlight? That makes a little bit more sense. At least it's challenges me to make more interesting composition choices if it's not like directly in the middle of the canvas. Those sort of design choices always put so much demand on the rest of the composition to be exciting. So if it's my main focal point, the Christmas tree, at least I want to make the rest of this painting process as easy for me as possible and not kind of paint myself into a corner right away. Actually, I could just like darken this entire sky by having the background be surrounded by dramatic looking mountains. Will bear gonna be there this time? Good question. I might add a bear after the stream, so even if the bear is not gonna be here, I'm not gonna commit to having it or not having it either way. We'll have to wait and see. But if my creativity is listening and present at the moment, a bear would be really nice. I'm kidding. It doesn't listen to me or care what I have to say. Which is fine. Just saying. I don't know if this is too saturated. Looks a little bit too saturated. With any kind of brush that allows for this kind of blending, like for example snow brush, blueberry, bear brush, like in any brush, like doesn't have to be made by me, of course, like any brush that allows for blending while you are painting by just tilting the stylus sideways or pressing more lightly on the same layer as the other colors are. It allows for these sort of like very small nuances to be color picked much faster. And in those sort of situations, it's super handy feature to have. I like these colors for these mountains, but like maybe they are in the wrong location. I'm gonna give them a little bit more space here. See if that works a little bit better. Because I wanna hear what is your favorite thing about these holidays. What kind of plans do you have? Oh my god, I forgot to move this. I have for once, usually it happens when I really don't want it to happen, but this time I have intentionally selected Christmas tracks for the playlist, but it's not only Christmas tracks, so I took this opportunity to sneak in some of my favorite tracks, like this one. And also, since this is a live stream I'm doing basically just for fun, I sneaked in some actual jazz that I like as well. I know that most people don't really care about jazz, but for me, that is what really makes me feel like Christmas. I'm just trying to find the mood. It's a little bit tricky when you have so many colors from the same color. Like there are just shades of blue here, but here the color of the light really matters, and the internal logic on how you kind of establish your lights and darks. White is never white in paintings, so you want to create an illusion of like what you establish as white in your painting, especially if you have snow in your painting. Then like that's a really great exercise for anybody to learn to use color in a more expressive way. By finding the light source and the way that it interacts with any desaturated surfaces. Esther is asking, which brush are you using? I'm gonna show. It's the deep canvas brush. Sunny, warm, tropical Christmas art. That would be an interesting challenge. Usually it takes a really long time for me to get excited about painting snow. The same way, like, for example, fall is usually super inspiring to me every year, but it's inspiring to me when it's already over, when it's kind of wet and muddy and we don't have those beautiful fall colors anymore. So I always kind of wake up too late that like maybe I should do some sort of like fall themed art now that I'm surrounded by all these beautiful fall trees. Never happens that way. There's a really bad choice of colors here, so I wanna fix that before moving on. I'm gonna get this tablet off from my lap now that everything seems to be working just fine. One thing that I love about Christmas is when we are visiting, doing these Christmas trips around Finland, like just sitting in the car, that to me is super relaxing every single time. And it's one of those things that I'm always looking forward to the most. I know that sounds boring, but like I don't drive, my boyfriend drives, so I get to just like sit, play on my Steam Deck or Switch, and sometimes I'm painting. Last Christmas I was working on like membership content that I was releasing during Christmas. And just generally like complaining, demanding coffee stops and being a general menace. I really like this sort of like combination of contrasts. I think these types of like colors for trees are usually like super tricky, so I'm pretty happy with the way that that works for now. I have no idea what these are. I'm just trying to feel it out and find an idea for this section of the piece. So bear with me here. Imagine trying to paint something, and if somebody was kind of looking over your shoulder and constantly wondering what it is that you're doing. That is what painting on a live stream sometimes feels like. You're just like trying to look like you know where we're going, but honestly I just sometimes have no clue. I should do this on a new layer. Let's do some hard angles and see if that kind of translates into a house shape. I don't want to give myself a situation where I have kind of established some kind of super detailed buildings in the foreground, because then it wouldn't just be a huge amount of work to paint, but the design-wise, doing a design that doesn't steal the attention from the rest of the painting, that's the scenario that I'm trying to avoid. I want to have fun with like trying to put some of these like graphic shapes in the background and just see how little kind of detail I can get away with to give it that sort of a painterly look, and that will push those details further into the background, and it will generate that feeling of depth that I want to have in a painting like this. Just because you can make everything like way sharper and detailed by using digital tools doesn't mean that it's always going to make the painting better. Sometimes just limiting the information to the elements that you feel are necessary, like that can be just as difficult. When you're learning digital painting, it can feel like details make the painting better, but it's just so hard to see your own piece with someone else's eyes. And what they usually see is that they gravitate towards the most important details. And then when you are zoomed into an element like this super closely and working here, it starts feeling like it's important, even though it's not. But when you make enough pieces, like you go through this process over and over, and eventually you learn that like that didn't actually help me make my painting any better, that it took away something from the mood that I had otherwise established. Look at how much mood I can add by just like doing these small tweaks to this color. It's already suggesting that there's some kind of warm light being emitted from the windows of these houses, even though we don't even have any houses yet. Christine is saying gifting new toys to the dogs is the thing I'm looking forward to the most, and I think I feel the same way. Vivi already has her entire life turned upside down. I'm gonna move the microphone, sorry if this creates noise. Let me know if the sound is okay. I'll lean on the desk a little bit more. Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, so we gathered all of Vivi's toys, and the toy box is now on the floor. And I'm trying to teach Vivi that she can't take the toys out on her own, that like when I'm ready to play with her, I will take out the toys. But sometimes she can't resist it and she goes there and makes a whole huge mess. But sometimes it's working, and I think it's a little bit better now, because the toys used to be kind of scattered all over near the kitchen table, and it looked super messy. And it was also in the direction where I'm walking all the time. So Vivi would get this sort of like false sense of like, okay, now playtime is starting, and when I'm just getting a cup of coffee or something. So it's also a little bit more stressful for her if she needs to be like super alert all the time. So that's why I wanted to establish that the toy box is in a completely different direction. Anybody who has seen the Glow talk that I did recently knows what's happening here, but to everybody else I can explain a little bit. So the glows are going to be edited separately, and usually that happens like quite near the end of the painting. I am going to show what the visual impact of this is going to be, because I also need it for composition design myself. But for painting, it's usually an element that is best reserved for pretty much the last thing that you do, because it's going to push all the colors so much brighter that those areas are going to be like uncolor pickable. And especially here where I have so many elements that are designed to overlap, like all of these houses are going to be overlapping with each other. There's probably going to be trees in between these houses as well. And having a glow that is overlapping with all of those elements will just change every single color pick to that direction. And for that reason, it's better to do it as a last thing. But I recommend having like a stand-in glow, because you can't plan your painting if you don't know what one of the major elements, especially if it's a bright and saturated element, is going to look like. So you don't want to leave it up to luck and think that like, I will figure it out when I get there. No, you better have a plan, or at least learn early if it's not working. And then you'll have much less headache in the entire process. I couldn't help putting in a little bit of bossa nova, because it's like one of my favorite music genres to paint to. This is pretty much what it looks like inside my head most of the time, especially when I have an important thing to do and to remember, and I completely forget it. This is what it sounds like in my head. Hello, Phoebe creating. Christine is saying, you can teach Vivi to put the toys back. It's my dog's favorite game, actually. He's also obsessed by putting dirty socks into the laundry basket and paper scraps into the bin. Christine, do you wanna switch dogs? I wanna have a dog that is basically doing household chores enthusiastically, it sounds like. That must be so handy. Okay, since this is about decorating the Christmas tree, let's put down some just dots and see where we can go with those. Maybe they need to be a little bit brighter. It almost looks like two big eyes. Like it's a sentient Christmas tree. Is that scary? It's my damn Christmas tree. Yeah. Maybe it can be a little bit scary. It looks like it's like frowning. It's probably not here to end the entire village. It comes in peace. Maybe. Who knows? If you're looking horrified, then don't worry. Like, there is a very small voice in panic screaming to me that, like, Mikko, you're ruining Christmas for everybody. Don't do it. I haven't completely lost my mind. I can hear it. It's just it doesn't have any power over the process, unfortunately. I guess on some level I have to admit that, like, I enjoy the crazy. I think if I was a massive Christmas tree, I think I would enjoy having mittens because you're so prickly that pretty much like doing anything feels challenging because of your needles. Just like having some festive, massive mittens makes life a little bit easier. Maybe it's a Christmas tree that brought some presents to everybody in the village. That seems like a story. I am avoiding the chat on purpose now because I know that somebody out there might be screaming like, oh my god, what is he doing? I will get back to reality, but like I think I'm committed to this. Like I can feel when my creativity like gets committed and excited about something. It's just like, okay, here we go. Fasten your seatbelts. Like this is the level of crazy we're going for. It's like a Christmas tree monster. Maybe this is the December monster that I said that I would do, but I never got around to doing. Maybe December monster is the Christmas tree. Yes. It makes so much sense. Or I don't know if it makes that much sense to you, but to me it makes sense. I think this could be fun. Pretty much whatever you're doing, if there's a way for you to enjoy it, then I think that's a voice that you should listen to. Now I will quickly check who thinks that I have ruined Christmas. Christine is saying the glow video is great in my opinion. Most of it rang a bell from the Gumroad course, and it's great to have that repeated in a condensed form once more. Yeah, I think Gumroad, the first part of that art course, ends with editing tricks that also like deal with glows a lot. As a Brazilian, Esther is saying, I'm really happy with the Christmassy bossa nova. I can already visualize my sunny Christmas. Yep, good. I'm glad that somebody else likes bossa nova as well. Now when I have all of this stuff, it feels like I put way too much effort into that mountain in the background, because it's way too high contrast. It needs to be completely like blown out to fall off into the distance. It just went completely overboard with some of those elements. These might be a little bit too saturated, or the sky gradient needs to be toned down a little bit. Like making the sky and the surroundings this dark, I think this leaves me a little bit more room to play with the decorations and have that kind of like hue variety there, because even if there are kind of detail rich elements in the distance, what I'm really planning for here is that those details are pretty monochrome. And then when it comes to the hue variety, at this point, like I'm just speculating that by having that hue variety in the tree, it will help with my composition. think these gradients, they are going to add a lot of like subtle nuances to the color transitions, and they're just gonna make color picking a lot easier. It's just additive layers, no, normal blend mode layers, but that makes them quite easy to work with as well. I'm gonna drop this as clipping masks to everything that matters, so these layers. And maybe have even brighter colors in between. So somewhere in between those streets there could be like super bright areas of color that just glow in the distance. I'm thinking of like ski lifts and where would they go on these slopes. Whenever you're painting these sort of elements into the landscape, it's just thinking about the way that people get around. It's such an easy way to do world building, and then when you start making it make sense, then you end up with like quite believable places with not that much effort. And it's super fun because like you kind of like get to discover the entire place when you're doing that, so it's something that I highly recommend if you've never done that. And if you're interested in like how to get started with world building, like that's really a good point like to start. Especially like often when you start doing world building, you don't know the characters that well yet, but you might know what kind of challenges that they are going to face. So just developing the world from there, like what kind of society would enable that sort of situation to happen and so on, you already have enough information to start building the world. Of course, the best kind of world building is one that kind of needs the main character as its surroundings to grow. So those two ideally should never be done in isolation. So any project that like hires a character designer and then environment designers are working somewhere completely different and they are not in communication with the writing team, that usually doesn't result in good end results. If you think about like any movie, for example, like the connection between these elements is already like well established, that the world is really a mirror on how to showcase the kind of point that the plot is trying to make? What do you want to show about humanity, or so on? I think a lot of science fiction books do this well, because most science fiction books have this sort of like one specific development in technology that is changing the entire society in some drastic way. And that is a perfect place to kind of show what isn't okay and what the main character needs to change or overcome. Where are my windows? I'm so lost in this. Here. I think the trick to getting snow right is starting from the shadows, because the lights are easy to paint, but it's so easy to also go like overboard with the light areas. Here, I probably want to have the lightest areas to happen right near the foreground, where the light from the Christmas tree is being cast here. But having it be like somewhere where it's easy to control and edit, I think that is going to be the difference between a painting that takes 8 hours to paint and a painting that takes 20 hours to paint. I think especially by doing live streams, I've come to understand more how just the workflow and how you set up your own painting workflow affects the whole enjoyment of any painting, especially with dense forest scenes that I've been doing this year. I've ran into difficulties with like overlapping elements and not having them painted in a proper order, and just really kind of punished myself in completely unnecessary ways by making the painting process like much harder than it needs to be. And that's definitely the biggest learning experience that I've had in art this year. It doesn't necessarily make me a better painter, but I just enjoy art more when I can make it in a way where it doesn't feel like it's like endless battle. So I'd be interested to hear, like, what are your like biggest things that you have learned this year? Like, I'm sure that next year you're gonna go into a new year with all kinds of new creative goals. But at this point, maybe it's also good to look at your own art and just acknowledge that you have improved. Like, where are those areas where you made the most progress, and what are you proud of in your art at this point? Also, Christine, like, any tips on like how I can train Vivi to take the toys back into the toy box? Like, I know that this isn't like general interest to anybody else in this stream, but if you can give me any tips on how to do that kind of dog training, please. I would appreciate it so much, because that would be so cool. You are using default process, right? No, this is a deep canvas brush, and it's downloadable this month for this channel's members. Oh, Esther already answered that, sorry. How many times do you usually spend on how much time do you usually spend on average on illustration? A painting can take anything from 20 minutes to, I think 40 hours is like upper limit of some of my most time-consuming paintings. When a painting has like reached 40 hours, like then it's like nothing of importance gets done after that. But not all of that work is always just painting either. Like when I'm doing a commission, then most of that time goes into design. So I'm not really counting that into that. By painting, I do mean like only like the manual paintings part. But the design is usually a much bigger part. It can take literally weeks. It's not uncommon for the design part to take weeks. I really like the way that that area just got kind of washed out. It's gonna give me some really good colors to color pick for dealing with that whole area. I have no idea how these mittens are going to work. I just need to put something in here, remind myself that it's part of the composition. Phoebe is saying, I'm watching this while drawing myself. It's so fun to draw with someone. Also, I love the tree. Thank you. And I love painting with you as well. Like that's why I love doing this. This to me is not like work. This is the part that I worked for so that I could be here painting with you guys. I guess that's also the part that I'm happy with this year, that I've learned to be more productive by just like doing more of the things that I like doing. I've had like tons and tons of live streams this year. I think this year I've done more live streams than any other year before. And it doesn't feel like I've completely overworked myself. It just feels like I've got to do a lot of art that I like doing. instead of doing all kinds of like perspective grids, I think I'm just gonna freehand this. I'm only going to have elements near the foreground that are going to be displaying any type of perspective. So if those get totally off, I will be able to like identify that pretty quickly after the stream by just like sleeping one night and being away from the painting. But when I'm fixing those sort of elements, it's important to like not take out the drawing assist guide and then fixing them by using the drawing assist. If I'm not going to be using that for every single line in the piece, then it's better to like put that on without turning the drawing assist on, and then just eyeballing the biggest perspective errors and freehanding them according to the lines that you can see in the perspective tool. Because otherwise you end up with this situation where you have like perfect perspective lines in one area and then just a complete mess of shapes elsewhere. I think this year I'm not going to say that I'm always going to be better at this, but this year I've gotten a little bit better at just like dealing with negativity. I think a big part of this is that I stopped using Twitter completely. I'm not going to be on there. I'm not going to return to that. Like, I'm completely done with that platform. But honestly, it's just like made my life so much better by not dealing with not just like people reaching out to me, but like just the general atmosphere, like just not being around that. Just... I should have done that sooner, honestly. But better late than never. And sometimes even like on YouTube, you end up like seeing like some really negative stuff about me or my art. Then I think in those cases, I've been able to just like not respond, like, and realize that it's not really worth it. Because giving energy to that sort of stuff, it's always like energy that you take away from something else that is more productive, like doing these live streams, spending time with you guys, or spending time with my art, doing more paintings. That doesn't get done if I'm wasting time by being upset about like completely trivial things. But I know that I'm also like super lucky with the YouTube community that is here, because I know that not everybody is as lucky as I am. Like, I really don't feel like I need to deal with like a lot of negativity here at all. People don't personally attack me or have grudges or just like send mean stuff to me through comments. Like, it's not something that I have to deal with here at all. And I know that everybody is not that lucky, but at least for me, I feel like this whole YouTube community is super safe. And like I said, like, there's a reason why this feels like something that I wanted to do, not like something like extra work task that I need to get done. Because like, I want to be here and painting with you. I wouldn't say that if I would have to kind of fear that there are a lot of these sort of like trolls waiting to spew some kind of hate online constantly for me to community manage or whatever. Like, that would feel like work. Just adding a little bit of snow. For me, a good Christmas is one where we have snow. It's super icy outside here currently. Don't hate it though, because I got last year these shoes that had metallic spikes on the soles, so they 100% prevent me from tripping. They're super handy. Because when it's slippery and I don't have them on, just this week there was one day where I almost fell down at least 10 times because it was so icy. Sometimes it's just the snow that has been like packed so tightly that even if it's not ice, it's still so slippery that it's dangerous. I'm old, I could break a hip or something. Luis is saying, I hope you intend on naming the tree. I think this is a December monster. I'm pretty confident about that already. Can you show me the pen pressure settings? Yes. The pen pressure settings that matter are here. Yeah, this is my pressure settings. So this means that I can really easily access the hardest brush pressure so that I don't have to kind of like crush the stylus into the screen. Otherwise, like, I would have to like grip the stylus really hard. And if you've ever like gotten like finger callus for holding a stylus, that might be your problem. But this is not just a Procreate specific thing or even iPad specific thing. Like any graphics tablet, if you don't go into the painting application but the graphics tablet driver itself, every graphics tablet that I have used has these sort of like pressure curve controls as well. So you can do it there also. I'm just gonna steal one of these eyeballs real quick. This one. And make a lamp. Also, sorry if I can't always like see what people are asking in the chat. It's a completely different direction from this screen. The stream controls and my painting happens on a separate thing, so I have to specifically turn there and see what's happening in the chat. And sometimes that means that I will be just painting. For anybody who did the live lesson, the master glows in painting tutorial recently, like this is the highlight roll-off. You can see that it goes from yellow to closer to those red hues. And this is because this light is probably going to be like closer to the foreground. So I want it to be a little bit more prominent. With any of these elements, I'm always thinking about where they are and placing the layers. It just helps me a lot in finding them quicker. But I delete layers all the time. They can be in use for a purpose just for a few minutes and then they're gone. So naming the layers would be just an insane waste of time. Mine and yours. Imagine watching me name all of these layers. That would be so boring. And nothing would be like get done. Like no actual painting would be happening during that time either. learned yet, and I can highly advise against, is don't start this crusade, like especially if you're new to painting winter scenes. Like, don't start this crusade of painting snow on top of trees like this, like spur trees. This takes forever. Am I doing it right now? Hopefully not. Hopefully this is just to illustrate a point, but don't put snow on top of your tree, as like it will take forever to render, and there's no like speed painty way of doing it. It'll take forever. Or have it be like the entire point of your painting. There is this Finnish great landscape artist that has done a lot of like classical landscape paintings from like the most popular years in Finnish oil painting, called Pekka Halonen, and his whole like main subject was snow-covered trees. But when you're learning a skill that is that hard, it's no wonder that can end up being like some artist's like whole thing, that they learned to do that thing and then proceeded to do that and be famous for doing that for the rest of their lives. It looks suspiciously like I'm doing snow on this tree. I'm still in denial about it, but it definitely looks like this is snow on this tree. Not gonna do any more. That would destroy everything. I'm not saying that you should like steer clear of any topics that feel difficult to paint, but just like being aware, like when you kind of stumble upon a subject that is challenging, that like it can kind of sneak up on you, and especially anybody who is starting out, when you kind of accidentally stumble upon these subjects that are really technically difficult to paint, but they seem like they should be easier, like it can feel demotivating and feel like you're a bad painter when you just don't know that this just happens to be one of those subjects that you need a high level of technical skill to pull off. And in those cases, it's better to kind of just, like Halonen, isolate that difficult topic. You can learn to paint anything you set your mind into, but trying to include one of those like super difficult things and learn that in a painting that is not about that difficult subject, that the main focal point and the story is about something completely else. It's better to make studies where you make that difficult subject the entire point of the painting, that is what you are learning to do with that piece, and then it feels like it makes sense to spend all that time and effort into learning that new technique. And then you get rewarded by being able to express that idea in the painting with these new skills that you have. Because whatever techniques you are learning, you are always unlocking new elements in your art and new subjects to talk about and express and communicate to your audience. not sure if I like those. Is there a reason for using screen over add in this piece so far? Yes. Because this pretty much falls into that overcast category that I was talking about in the glow tutorial. So here, the bright colors, I want to really reserve them for the Christmas tree, the December monster, and maybe the foreground glows. But overall, I want the glows to just fade into the background, because I'm gonna have tons and tons of glows, like even in this area, and having those be additive blend mode glows, that would crush the sense of space, because the additive blend mode would easily bring them that much closer. You can reach similar looking end results with both blend modes. It's just about how difficult it is. So I'm not looking for making life more difficult for myself with this. So that's the reason why I'm sticking with this approach. So elements that are kind of like colorful and sparkly, like maybe these presents, then just knowing if it's an element that is close to the camera and if it will benefit from those vibrant colors, that can be just a simple handy way to decide which blend mode to go with. As long as you get to the end results that you are happy with, then like this is not a hard rule that you should never ever break. But there are enough difficult elements in a painting to decide already, so if it can make deciding those techniques a little bit easier, then it's at least the rule that I go by. But with glows, experimentation is also super important, because you so often stumble into like a better way to do something just by looking through all the different options. This is something that you don't get to do in traditional media that easily, so I highly recommend like taking advantage of all the benefits that digital medium affords. if you want to make life harder for yourself, right, then of course. I fully support anybody like taking out gouache paints or oil paints and doing this traditionally. I'm going to be doing more traditional painting next year as well. I love doing the painting recently so much with oils. Like, I still haven't put the paints away. And today, when I was in the store looking for Christmas present wrapping paper, I found this canvas. That was a wooden canvas. It had been kind of raised into a more boxy shape, like a normal stretched canvas is, but it was just wood board for painting, and I'm so curious to feel what that's like. When I was in art school, I never painted on wood. We always painted on canvas. And unfortunately, I'm saying this unfortunately because I never liked this. Sometimes we would prepare our own canvas from scratch by like nailing the frames and like doing the whole thing and making the rabbit glue with kitchen appliances and the whole thing. It takes ages and I'm never going to be, well, I should probably say never, but like that part I find just like no interest in. Like, I have no problem buying a ready-made canvas. I don't feel at all limited by that. When I was a kid, I loved putting on Christmas decorations. But now that I'm older, I still love Christmas decorations, but I don't want to have my own damn tree, because I know myself well enough that I know that if I have my own Christmas tree, it will be like summer and green leaves will be marking the arrival of summer before I get enough motivation to throw the tree away. I pull something wrong out. I blurred the wrong layer. Sorry. This layer that I needed to drag here. And blur this one. This sort of stuff doesn't really bother me when I do it on my own, but on a live stream I just feel like really embarrassed that I need to do the same. operation again. By the way, when I made this silhouette of a tree for downloads, you have no idea how long it took to like paint that frayed edge of the tree. Like, took way longer than I would like to admit. So in the old days, before we had Christmas trees, the people from this village, they used to go to the wilderness in this forest to get these sort of like festive Christmas branches, and they would just cut off the branches from just normal trees standing in the forest. And of course, the trees didn't like this. So they came up with this plan to send this December monster as a one big Christmas tree for the village, and to stop people from like going to the forest and cutting off these branches. The Christmas tree comes with this pile of presents every December as a sign that you don't need to go into the forest. You can have the Christmas just here, outside, with this one fancily decorated Christmas tree. And of course, like, this is a friendly monster, like, you shouldn't bother the big Christmas tree, especially when it's coming to the town with all of these gifts. Of course, we had that one incident one year when a bunch of kids went to pick their decorations and like tug on the lower branches of the Christmas tree, and the December monster ended up eating 3 children. But ever since that, like, most people know that like you should respect the Christmas tree and keep your distance and just appreciate the presents that come with the tree. And as a parent, you really should like control your kids on not letting them do anything like that. Teach them to respect other living beings. Lisley Art is saying, next year will be a year of more digital art for me, as I will be away from home for a few months. I think that's great with digital painting, especially with iPad and tablets now that you don't have to kind of limit the type of art you are doing, because I have access to all of the colors and it's so easy. I hate the kind of logistics that comes with traditional painting. Like, that's not the part that I enjoy at all. You turned on Christmas. Yes. I'm kind of happy with like the super expressive way that the town is painted. Don't want to mess with it too much. I didn't turn off the glows, I just set it as a clipping mask. So now when I'm color picking different colors, I don't have to deal with the gradients, except from those street lamps. That's actually a handy gradient to have, because it will help finding those right colors a lot quicker. Since there are usually so many like questions about like what process am I using, I was thinking that like maybe in the future I should do a few live streams where I'm just using a round brush. I would really like to use the round plus brush, but I don't know if people will be like understanding that it's almost the same thing. Maybe it's just better if it like clearly state that it's the round brush, because if I'm using the round plus brush, then people will make this whole noise about that as well. Because at the end of the day, processes are just tools. They really don't matter that much. It's about finding control. I think round brush is one of those things that, like, for a lot of new artists, it's hard to get excited about it. But whether they like it or not, that's the brush that they can develop the muscle memory fastest. So for that reason, it does have a lot of like benefits to using it. In my concept art classes, like whenever there's a student that is just like using a super messy brush or getting completely sidetracked in having 5 different brushes for every single painting, or brushes that are just super active and they are not developing their like brushstroke directions or groupings or anything like that, then sometimes I just say that, like, for you person here in the middle row doing this painting, you are forbidden from using anything except round brush for this next exercise. And then that allows me to teach a brushstroke grouping and how to place those brushstrokes. But when it's just like a completely messy texture with every painting, it's impossible to teach them like how those textures can be arranged in a way that are effective. Like my intent with concept art classes is never to like say how people should be painting, but if I'm teaching them how to paint, I need to be able to see if they are learning anything, or if I need to do more exercises with that student. Visualizing a painting with all of my favorite colors. I think it might be mine too, like blues and pinks. That makes me happy. And like orange glows. Definitely my comfort zone. In the beginning of next year, I'm gonna be teaching concept art again. But I also have big plans for making my own educational material. I recently got like a really good feedback from one of my community members here on YouTube. And in that feedback, like by really good, I mean that it wasn't just like positive things, but they were like good suggestions for what kind of content I could do, and I think I agree with a lot of that. So just gave me a lot of ideas on how to develop new ways of like creating educational art content that can teach people to paint. And hopefully enjoy that painting process as well. Painting is a learnable skill. It is. But you'd be surprised how common it is in art schools and art programs to run into people who are learning the same things as you are and they just kind of bounce off art because it's too challenging. Like, not just the painting part of it, but everything surrounding it. I don't think like art education like does a good job of making art as a profession something that people understand why they are doing it, like why it's worth all of this effort. Art is probably never going to be like one of the highest paying professions out there, like no creative field is. But if you are taking it upon yourself to do it anyway, it's not that much extra effort to kind of like define for yourself like why you are putting yourself through this. Like, why are you doing it at all? Because when it gets difficult, and it will get difficult, then it's not just a matter of like self-motivation or positive self-talk, but like where are you going to get all of those like problem-solving mechanisms if you don't know why you have them? How are you ever going to develop them further and be a functional human being that enjoys the work that they are doing if you don't see why it's important at all? Yes, I'm finished, Amanda. Hi Mikko, see you in a few weeks at the concept art class. Any tips how to prepare? Okay, Tero. Tero, and anybody who is ever going to be joining any of my concept art classes, in the beginning of the class, there is always this color swatch exercise that I do for everyone. And some people don't get it. That's fine. It's completely fine, like not understanding that exercise. That's the reason why I'm there, and I can help anybody kind of navigate through that exercise. However, what is not recommended is thinking that this is just one exercise that will be done and then you can move on to the rest of the class if you don't get it. If you don't get it, like there's absolutely no shame in saying like you don't understand something. I will be there to help you through this every step of the way. But when we are making the next paintings, like this information will be required for all paintings going forward. And the swatch exercise, mastering your palette, it is required to build mood in your paintings. And I've been doing this class for so many years that I know that it works. I know that it's worth the effort, even when it might feel awkward. And I get that some students feel that it's like awkward to say that like, I don't know how to do this yet. That's fine. But even if it's awkward to do the same exercise again or keep correcting your swatches, it's still going to be always worth that effort, because it will show up in all of the paintings that you are going to be doing from that point onward. So just be patient with yourself and be patient with me. I'm not there to torment you with that exercise. I'm there to help you. That's why we're doing it. And I think it should be proof enough that I do this exercise every single year. Some of the elements change depending on what works or what's happening in the industry as a whole, but that color exercise will always be there. And for any members, you can just do this exercise right now by finding Master Your Palette video and doing it yourself. I cannot recommend it highly enough. If there's like any exercise that you should do when you're learning color, it's that one. That one exercise. When it comes to my concept art class, other tips are that like when I say that like you need to name your paintings, I'm not kidding. And like this, I'm not like threatening you, I'm just telling you how it is. But anybody who is like not naming their paintings when they are submitting their artwork to the study system, where I check all of your homeworks, if the painting doesn't have a name, I'm not at all exaggerating. I treat them, I mark them simply as like not done. You might have like painted that piece 4 hours at home after school, but if it doesn't have a name, for the purposes of completing that course and like marking everyone's like progress, it's gonna be a 0, like not done. There's no like half done marks in that system. It's just like it's either done or it's not done. And if it doesn't have a name, to me it's not done. And that also is not there to torture you. It's there to teach you to look for the meaning within your painting. And naming your artwork, that is also not something that is just gonna like be a switch that you turn on suddenly and then you know how to name your paintings. Every painting that you do and publish online, and this goes for everybody out there listening to me right now, like every painting that you publish online, that is an opportunity for you to learn this skill, like completely for free. You don't need to make a new painting. You can just name a painting every time that you complete one. And you will get better at this. And that will teach you to look deeper in your paintings and tell more meaningful stories. If you paint a painting where main subject is apple, and you name that painting an apple, you're right off the bat like telling anybody who is like seeing your art that this is not important and there's like no deeper level to be found here. Like they won't care. Like it's your job as the artist to market your art and make people care. And that starts in the painting phase. Like eventually, after you consistently keep naming your paintings, you will start finding those stories within your paintings, and you are more in touch with like what you are like as a person, basically. Doing any kind of creative work is learning about yourself. And it takes a lot of confidence in just not knowing yourself, but like also expressing those ideas to other people in non-obscured ways. And every time you name your piece and when you publish it online, you will in the beginning have this fear that like, oh, what are people going to think of me when I'm revealing all of these like deep personal things about myself online. The purpose of this exercise is also to teach you that absolutely nobody cares. No one cares at all. So you might as well do it the right way. Give your painting a name, and then the people who are interested in your art, the people who do need the message that you are conveying through your artwork, this gives you a possibility to reach those people. And that is also, it's like a muscle, this emotional bravery, that you can only train by working on it. And for that reason, I recommend for everybody, like not just this like person that is going to be in the concept art class, but like everyone, to be brave and name your own art. It makes a huge difference in the long run. And when you're painting your piece, just thinking about what the name is going to be, like that can already be a huge help in like how to construct the entire composition when you know what it's about. But if you have no idea what your painting is about, you can't just say that this is a picture, because then you know that you have not achieved anything of importance. So when you force yourself to come up with these stories, you are gonna get better at it. I've also seen sometimes this idea that like you first need to learn the skills to paint, and then when you know how to paint, you can somehow like turn on this like imagination mode and then suddenly start telling your stories through your art. It's pretty like arrogant to think that the skill of like storytelling and emotional bravery is a skill that everybody has that they are just not using. If it was that easy, then all art would have those kinds of stories. But you can go on any art platform like Instagram, Kara, or Blue Sky, or even ArtStation if that mess is still running, and you can like immediately see that a huge part of the art there is just pictures, and those are the people who approached art that way. And that is going to be you if you don't train those skills. Where are these stumpy legs here? I'm happy I still have like so much room for brighter colors here. The tree has mittens because it's so spiky. Otherwise, whatever the tree chooses to touch, it would be tricky. So the mittens are really important. I hope, Tero, that answer helped a little bit. I'm not trying to be scary, trust me. It is really difficult to teach art. It's not the same as learning how to paint. I was really bad at it in the beginning. So the reason why I'm doing these certain exercises, that's the result of like years and years of art teaching and just finding what works. I wouldn't do something just to torture you. But I'm also like aware that like some exercises are definitely more demanding than others. Like for example, imagination interval training. It's always difficult. And even for me, when I do those sessions, like I'm just completely exhausted after that because you end up generating so many ideas. You can do like one imagination interval training session and you can have ideas for 2 months quite easily if you do a long session. And if you do several ones, then within a week you easily have enough ideas for the whole year. Have a great rest of the year as well. Let me check how are we doing on time. 2 hours. Okay. I think I could do a little bit more Christmas decorations with the last 30 minutes here. Since this is about decorating the tree, so let's do some damn decorations maybe. I love doing anything that involves these sort of like confetti-like design challenges where you're just putting sparkly colors all over the painting. When you have enough detail to kind of frame what you're seeing and root it into some kind of world building. Like most people can probably see that this is a village, there's snow, snowy valley, and so on. Like once people understand those things, then like that allows me to go like absolutely nuts and secretly like do this sort of like sparkly confetti explosion all over the Christmas tree and somehow get away with it. think I wanna like avoid putting too many Christmas decoration in the bottom half of December monster, because you don't want to cause any like more accidents where children that are harassing the tree are getting eaten. Let's just try to avoid that a little bit. To me, when I ever was a kid and was decorating the Christmas tree, like it always had to be done in this sort of spiral formation. Like for me, there was no other acceptable way to place the decorations. Oh, Esme. Esme just posted a super cute picture of her cats on this like incredibly fancy chair. Esme, one thing that I was wondering when I saw this pile of cats on your fancy black royal chair was wondering like, how can you have a cat that is not black and have that sort of like very deep, is it even black, rich velvet fabric on the chair? Like, isn't that just going to be speaking from a person who has a dog who only has like a small portion of the fur of Vivi is white? I was just wondering, like, having a light brown cat, wouldn't that fur just be absolutely everywhere? I usually wear black sweatpants around the house, and like they are just completely covered in Vivi's fur at all times. So Esme is saying, I'm planning to become an Angry Mob member again in 2025 and continue to learn to do art. Looking forward to it. Whenever Esme you're ready, like the content is going to be there. It's not gonna go anywhere, so no rush. Do it at your own time, but of course, like, we're happy to have you whenever. And there are tons of new live lessons now as well, because I've been doing those quite a lot this year. Teacher Robin is saying, I just joined, where should I start? Like, if you joined this live stream, do your own Christmas tree. Like, I'm just finishing in 20 minutes, but there's no right or wrong time to paint. I think painting is a great activity to do during Christmas, because you can just... I would challenge everybody who happens to be listening to me at this moment that during Christmas, like, try to do something creative that just feels pleasant. Like, try to find that one thing. Like, usually people are pretty good at like letting themselves eat snacks. I know I have a cookie like pretty close here. Also, like, just as this sort of like behind the scenes look about the secret behind my coffee, this is what is in there. So let this be your opportunity to find something that is fun to paint and you can just enjoy it. Like, for example, this. Like, I'm not recording this. This live stream is the only memory that there is going to be of this stream even happening and me painting this painting. This is just for enjoyment. Like, try to find the pleasure in art. And then when it comes to next year, hopefully you can use that information in like being kind to yourself when you're planning what to do. Like, what kind of like challenges are you going to face next year, and what are your goals for what you want to learn and study or do next year. If you already have some kind of experience of like what kind of art is enjoyable to you, please do yourself a favor and include that in the plan of what you're going to do next year. I'm sure come January you're gonna have this like whole I'm gonna learn and do absolutely everything. You're gonna have that sort of like improvement rage like everybody does. That's normal. But if you can just take this moment right here on this live stream and plan out to do something creative during the holidays that you just enjoy. If it feels like work and if you don't feel like doing it, then that's probably not it. Like, try to find something to paint that is just fun. This could be, for example, a subject that you are already good at doing, like something that you feel like you don't have to try to get good results. that could be a one very reasonable way of doing art, by finding like what you enjoy. Like for example, for me, like it's pretty easy to paint an island, like a small island in the middle of the sea at sunset. I could do those for the rest of my life. If I had to pick just one subject, I would pick that. I don't need to think about that. That would be my subject, and I would be perfectly happy doing that. Because I love painting islands. I would never get tired of that. So if you know what that is for you, please include it in the plan what you're going to be doing next year. Because I'm sure that you will have very aggressive plans on how many paintings of like what subject are you going to do per week or something. Like that is something where people don't need that much help with. Like they are pretty good at like figuring out those things on their own. But then they leave out the important part. What is going to give you that energy to endure the learning process? Because learning requires a whole lot of energy. But doing art that you enjoy, that replenishes that energy. So people plan all these high goals on what they're going to be doing next year, but then they don't plan on how are they going to have the strength to do all of that work. They just plan the work part. You've probably heard of this Quitter's Day. There is this specific day during January when, according to Strava, most people fall off their like fitness goals. But you can do the same thing with pretty much anything. Like even exercise. There are types of exercise that I absolutely love doing that you don't need to talk me into going for a short, intense run, for example. That's fun for me. I enjoy doing that. But if you have to, if my goal was to learn better swimming technique, which it should really, I should be better at it, I could schedule myself like the entire year of swimming next year to learn better technique. But if there's no like fun alternative, there's a huge danger that I will just like completely fall off the entire exercise wagon, because if I start associating exercise with just going to the pool and being terrible and slow at swimming. Esme replied that I wear my black clothes only when I go outside the house. I think, Esme, even that is huge commitment. Huge commitment. I don't use it every time, of course, but whenever I'm seeing other people, I usually use that sort of like tape roll to clean up some of the Vivi's fur on me. Not all of it, of course, but some. Christine is saying, you are not properly dressed without some cat or dog hair on you. That could be true. I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I think these mountains, they could have a little bit more contrast. I'm gonna try and see if I can rescue this with an overlay blend mode layer. When you bring overlay to this like gray area, there it does nothing. So I'm bringing all of those shadows to the gray area and only tweaking the highlights by pushing them up like this a little bit. I think that's better. When you're doing these big mountain shapes, it usually helps to pick a direction to where the snow parts go and just stay consistent with it. Whenever I zoom in like this and start doing details, that's usually when I go wrong with the whole thing. But when you are very consistent with the direction of what you're doing up close like this, consistent with those big shapes that you have already established earlier, like that usually ends up looking a lot better. Also, don't make any like super dramatic mountain shapes right at the edge of your painting. I think one thing that I'm also happy about this year is that I think I learned better ways to write videos on this channel. And that was only possible because I allowed myself like failures. I allowed myself to try things that could fail. And I already have a plan for my next year where I have included things that I allow myself to fail in. I think that's always important for growth. It's so easy to have these sort of like success goals. But in creative line of work, you should like have goals for like how many like sloppy failures you want to have. Probably none, but to have progress and to keep learning as an artist, you do need failures to grow from. So if that's not like planned in your schedule at all, you only end up doing those things that you already know how to do. What's the point of that? This is not really art related in any way, but I kind of want to be also a better boyfriend, really, because sometimes I'm so obsessed with my work and painting that I know that it's taking a lot of time away from my relationships, and they don't happen on their own, and I'm really happy to have people that care for me, and I should be like more kind towards them and like do my part in maintaining those relationships. That overlay mask that I just did, it added a little bit more punch to the rooftops that are closer to the camera. I think it works well. I'm gonna commit to it. I know that those dark clouds in the sky, they don't have proper shading yet, but it's going to be super low contrast anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. I'm hitting the 3-hour mark, so I'm gonna stop. Let's just do a few quick color edits, because this is all about glows. And I'm just going to do the things from the glow art class that I just did recently. So I copied the canvas, I duplicated it, and here I'm going into curves, and I'm cranking down the shadows here, bottom left corner of the curves, all the way down. I think I'm gonna get rid of some of that red as well, especially the shadowy reds and blues, to keep the glows on those warm elements. And then I'm duplicating that and setting it as a screen blend mode layer. After a few duplications, I crunched them up And then I'm gonna go into saturation, pull down the saturation a lot, and then do a much bigger glow. This is something that I haven't planned before, but I think this foreground actually works pretty well because it highlights that snow in the foreground. So I want to find a hue for that. I'm just not satisfied with what I'm getting by default. So that's why I'm editing it. Okay. Adding a mask to it. And then painting whatever feels reasonable, visible here in the foreground. This is all on the mask only. Turn down the saturation on the snow a little bit so that it looks slightly less like Christmas monster peed on it. I'm just looking at the star on the top right corner. That's the only thing that I'm editing for. Like, I know that I'm changing the colors everywhere, but I'm gonna mask that part out. So now I'm just focusing on that star. And I wanna have that highlight roll off to go towards red to tie in with the pink, so that highlight roll off is going to kind of introduce this focal point detail. It's gonna make the eye travel from the pinks. Okay, I have a lot of banding here, so I'm adding a noise. A big noise. And then another Gaussian blur to get rid of that banding. And I'm gonna go into curves and make sure that that area that I'm working on, the star, that it's gonna fade to black. So now that I have everything that I need, I'm gonna do a black layer mask and paint in the glow that I want. I'm gonna do a positional glow here. This usually takes several tries to get right. Actually, I'm gonna do this other glow effect in the middle so that I don't get cut off by the edges. So I'll keep duplicating this and I'm rotating it. Oh. Rotating it, building myself another one of those star effects. Duplicating this again and then scaling it a little bit. And this scaled down version, I'm gonna change the hue a little bit. And make it darker. And now that I have this new flare effect, I'm putting it back on the star. I'm not gonna leave it like this, don't worry. I'm gonna turn it into black. The reason why I'm doing these duplications is that if I mess up, I can go back and not have to do all of these steps again. And now I am just painting a circle in white on the black layer mask. And then Gaussian blurring it to create this radial ray halo. And if you feel like at this point the hue variety is too high, you can always add a clipping mask and set it to hue. And then just set any color fill on that you feel like works well. And then just lower the opacity of that and you can get a little bit of that hue variety back. This is a way for you to tweak all the colors to that one direction while still maintaining that like sparkly rainbow effect. Okay, and that's how I decorated my Christmas tree. Thank you for leaving this available for non-members too. Yes, it will be available. I won't be taking this live stream down. The downside is, of course, that like this will have the ads on for everybody, so I hope that's okay with you guys. Thank you everybody for joining. Rexy, Kain, Teacher, Robin, Christine, Esther, everybody. Christine is saying, I second that. This stream was super relaxing and Christmassy. I painted along and didn't get to paint in like 2 weeks. Have a great holiday, everyone, and have a great time with your people, Mikko. Thank you. And I hope that Christine, Esme, and everybody here has a really nice holidays as well. And enjoy your time. Remember that you don't need to paint all the time. Just relax, enjoy the holidays as well. Thank you, Esther. And thanks everyone for joining. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.